All right, going live in three, two, one. Well, this is Layers of Beauty. We're up to episode number three. Can you imagine that? We're up to number three at this point. How does that feel?
Feels great. I survived
You
till
survived.
episode three. I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Yeah,
And
and
I hope audience are excited too.
yeah, the views are getting a little bit better, which is good. Hopefully, it will keep on climbing, and we'll get more people watching. Looks like more people are watching the show after it's live rather than actually watching it live. So, just to give you an idea what's going on there. But we appreciate that as always. We like if you watch the show when you have a chance, that's fine. Not everyone can watch it when it's actually live, which is perfectly fine. I leave them up forever, so don't worry about them ever being taken down. Oh,
Nice.
okay.
No, it's
So
all good.
So how are you doing? It looks like we before we went live, I could hear your fan. Are you still in a heat wave where you are?
Yeah, if you guys see me sweating, and I'm trying to like adjust myself to the camera. If you see me sweating, it's still like I'm just really hot here. And I'm not like really good with heat, as you can see in every episode. Sorry if I'm complaining about heat all the time. It's
So
not
what's
my thing.
as you said before, you don't have any air conditioning, right?
I have a fan that gets really like heated when there's no air at some point. So no air conditioning. You remind me. I need to go get some, and I need to stop complaining.
The I'm looking at the temperature where I'm at right now. Now it's 78 degrees Fahrenheit, 26 degrees Celsius. I think we're about the same, right? Is that what you are roughly about
Yeah,
80
we're the
degrees?
same. But you
Okay.
have an air conditioner, and you have the resistance and tolerance to heat, and we don't. All we
Okay.
know is rain and cloud. This is just so new for us. We see the sun, and we're like, we're not used to you. Can we just get back to rain, please? Something that is familiar.
So are you in a drought? What's going on there? What is this? This has
Not
been
droughts. It's like it's like very hot with a lot of sun, and no preparation whatsoever.
hmm.
You go to stores, some of them they don't have air conditioners. This is so new, right? Not
So,
all of them. Some of them have. Don't get
uh,
me wrong.
that's what I was going to say. You said some of them, so it meant some of them do have them. That's interesting. So they are
Some of
some of
them
them.
do have them. Yeah, and as you can see, I'm sorry, like literally, like I'm. And I had the reason is like I turned the fan this way so it wouldn't interrupt with my microphone.
Right.
So forgive me if I look shiny because I'm
Oh,
hot.
you look fine. You look fine. I wouldn't worry about it. I think everyone's going
Thank
to
you.
appreciate what we're doing there. So
Thank you.
no, what I'm wondering is like if these stores don't turn on the air conditioning very much. I know like when I in my house when I was a kid, if we hadn't turned the air conditioning on for a while, well, we never used the air conditioning. My dad was they were too cheap. My parents were just too much on a budget all the time. So, but during the wintertime, when we first turned the heat on, we'd smell like a really nasty like moldy smell that would come through there because they hadn't turned it on for a whole year. And it was like, do you walk into these places and you smell like any kind of mold or anything blowing through, or is it pretty clean?
I never experienced that. I think because we never have air conditioning. Like for us, we only have fans. So I don't know. I never experienced that. But it's very interesting because when I was in Iran, because I actually born and partially grown up in Iran. I left Iran when I was 16. I don't know if our audience know. And we did have like air conditioner there.
Mhm.
So but the thing is in Iran, we actually had to cover ourselves because it was mandatory. You have to wear hijab and like something like a very like loose dress over your dress.
Mhm.
So even it makes it more
You mean
hot.
hot? Yeah. And what about the color? Was it dark colored as well, or
It doesn't really matter about the color, but you
okay?
wanted to avoid colors that bring your attention, because the whole purpose of hijab is that you don't want to bring attention to yourself. You don't want to wear tight clothing, right? Because
Right.
it will like show your curves and things like that. So you want to
Ah, I see.
be conservative as much as possible.
I got you. I would think that if you, though, I was thinking like if you wear dark colored clothing at all, obviously then yeah, that would add to the heat because the dark colors attract the heat, obviously. So
Oh, yeah, I never thought of that.
so
Yeah, yeah, that's true, I guess. But then for us, it was just like we didn't even think of that. We just want to like, when are we gonna get home to our air conditioner? We just want to be home. Because in
right.
Tehran, because where I'm from, it's the capital of Iran. It can get really hot. We have all the three seasons, and the winter can get really cold, and the summer can get really hot, and
Wow.
we barely have rains. So it's kind of like the and it's very polluted there. But in
Hmm.
Vancouver, the one of the advantage that we have is the fresh air. And every time I go travel, whenever I arrived in from or enter from airport to the city, I feel that fresh air as if I'm entering to somewhere that is very clean and fresh and green. So we're very famous for our weather. It's very
Ah,
refreshing because it's full of nature, full of trees. There's an ocean breeze, and I think we're blessed in that way.
gotcha. So you're going to be staying there. You're this is your home for. Are you ever planning on leaving? I guess is what I mean what I'm leading up to.
I mean, I love Vancouver. I think my home always going to be here, but I would definitely love to. I wouldn't mind when in the rainy season here, just go somewhere that is a little bit more sunny. So 6 months
Ah,
here, 6 months there. But for that, obviously, you need to have the luxury of resources and money to do so.
right. No,
Yeah,
no,
so that's the future dream.
no. Getting back to Tehran, am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. You said 3 seasons? Did you because are you missing? Did you say 3 seasons? Because you said summer, winter, and then but you and it sounded like you said there were only 3 seasons. Is that or how does that work?
Did
Is
I
it is it
differ?
actually
Did
4?
I say three seasons? No, sorry. We do have the summer, fall, winter, and spring.
Oh, you do have
We
4.
have
Okay.
all of them. Sorry, I meant to say 4 seasons. I don't
Okay.
know why I missed one season. Thanks for catching me. Catching
That's
me.
all. I thought maybe there was something that I didn't know about that.
No, 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 no. I would say more about Vancouver if it's any case. It's more like a three seasons city.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Well,
interesting.
it's
Which
not really, but I feel like the winter is very long here,
hmm.
and the summer is very short. You don't really get that much sunshine. It's very yeah, it's very cloudy and rainy. It's not cold though. The difference
Right.
between Vancouver and Toronto and the rest of the Canada, they get below zero. We barely get below zero. We're just a very like moderate temperature, as if like we're not in Canada.
I
So we
get you.
don't we barely get snow here, versus like Calgary and Toronto and other cities, you would see a lot of snow.
That's
Another thing about Vancouverian is that they don't know how to drive in the snow. I mean, at least I know I can't, and a lot of people that are around me.
well, also, if you don't get much snow, you're probably not gonna get much snow, treatment on the roadways, like salt and sand and
Yeah,
all that stuff, so that's gonna make it worse if you try to drive on the roads, so, I mean, where I live, I have no problems driving in the snow, but they also treat the roadways, so I'm like one of the I'll be out there, I had jobs where people would say, "You know, you're gonna be late for work," and I said, "When the snow comes," I said, "No, I'll be there on time," and that was, almost every time I was there, no problems. I had no problem even deep snow, could be a foot or 2 feet of snow, I'd still be there without any problems. It's just, but it also depends on if they treat the roadways, how they do that. So,
yeah, yeah. That's
yes.
true. That's true.
So
That's
where
true.
you are, I'm assuming since there's not much snow, there's not much treatment when the snow actually comes down. So people are more terrified to drive, which would be understandable. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just like we're not prepared for a condition, and we're not prepared for snow. It's
mhm,
like, but we're really prepared for rain.
right.
It's like we're like everywhere. I think I'm just gonna put my hair up because it's getting like crazy hot here. But I think one of the things about Vancouverings is that you notice we always carry umbrella, because you never know. Even in summer, we can have umbrella. We can have like rain all of a sudden.
Hmm.
So you never know. The rain is, it could get anywhere. Last year, August, I think we had more rainy season than sunshine. Can you believe that?
Wow,
That was last August.
that would drive me crazy.
So this is for us new, and
Oh
I
wait,
don't know why we're complaining.
that was last year. You said that was last year, right?
Last year, yeah,
Yeah,
I used to have jacket on me all the time.
that happened here last year as well in August. We got like just rained for forever, and it was like it wouldn't stop. And it took forever for it to stop for some reason. So maybe it was tied into what you had. I mean, we're in
Global warming or something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay, I feel so much better now. I just get the fan a little bit going. Okay, I'm good now.
Okay. Yeah, but it got so bad that when my car, I went out to start it, and the rotors on my brakes had rusted. So when I went to step on the brakes, they were
Yeah.
making a squealy sound because they were so rusty because of all the rain. And then my starter went bad, and my alternator went bad. I think it was because of the rain, just because it was just so much water came. It was just rain. It wouldn't stop raining. It was like unbelievable. And I'd never seen it that bad before. So it was really bizarre. I know we're on the opposite sides of the continent, so I'm still wondering if somehow it was tied in. But it was just
Yeah.
so bizarre.
Was it in August?
Yes, it was August of last year. So
Okay, yeah, it must have been like something connected, or like the whole earth is getting more hot. I
yeah,
don't know. But I surprisingly, I used to complain that how I'm just gonna move to somewhere it's more sunnier. I need sunshine, vitamin D, my mood changes. And I think like Vancouver like cursed me for some reason or something. I'm not even joking. It's been in the past 2 months, it's been hot, like every single day. My Zoom.
oh, you're cutting out a little bit. Uh-oh. You're you're cutting off a little bit. If you can still hear me, give
I
it a
can
second.
still hear. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Now I hear you now. I hear you fine. It's
Yeah, so I feel that I'm more comfortable with the regular Vancouver weather, clouds and rain than sun. I don't know.
oh,
It's
okay.
just me. But everybody's different, right?
Right, right. Yeah, I can adjust to any weather, but having too much rain or too much of rain, too much snow on a regular basis can get to me after a while. So, the one thing I don't
That's
like are
true.
thunderstorms. I don't like thunderstorms because then the power goes out, and that can
Yeah,
create problems. That's the only problem. I don't like those. But other than that, I can usually tolerate most of anything else as long as it's not for too long of a period of time.
yeah,
So,
yeah. That's true. That's true. I guess it's also that is the downside about it, because like it does affect your mood after a while.
hmm hmm Well, would you like to check our question from last week? I think
Let's do it.
we got a lot of responses. I think you'll be happy with this. Give me a second while I bring this up. 1 second.
Just gonna
There we go. All right. So our question last week was, what is the most beautiful era? And we got 72% was saying 1980s as the top choice. Interesting. Um, I said that I think that the 80s were okay. I grew up in mostly in the 80s, and I wouldn't call it the most beautiful era, but that's just maybe because I'm a little different. But um, I would probably say something more like maybe the 60s or the 70s in my opinion. So, uh, but see, the next choice now would be 15% with another era, and 9% with 1920s, and 5% with the 1950s. So, how do you feel about those results?
I think it's pretty much the same as last week,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that was like around 70s last week too, in 1980s. But then Isla like comments with, are there any comments?
Yep. I'm bringing them up right now. So, green. We got a whole bunch. I don't know if we can go through all. Wow, we got a whole bunch. We'll skim through some of these. I'll try to pick the ones that look the best. Green Trees says that 1990s. That's CJ's era. That's CJ's reference to Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. That's when the game takes place in the 1990s. Or actually, specifically 1992. Let's see. We got 1997s. I guess 1990s. I guess maybe meant to say. Now, interesting. So he likes this period. 2020s, it's different. The 70s, that's what I threw in there. 1987 was nostalgia. It's not every year is just the best. So beautiful when we remember it, no matter how hard it was back then. Okay, that's a pretty good way of looking at things. And let's see. Next one down says, "How the f are you expect to answer from people who were born in the 2000s?" Well, you don't have to be.
That's fair.
Yeah, but you don't have
But
to be. Yeah, if that's the case, then you can only answer from the areas that you are from. That wouldn't be very much. I mean, you're limiting what you can say.
but
So
no, I mean, I was born in 80s and I still familiar with 1970s and 60s and 50s and 20s. And one of my favorites is 1920s. So I think it's also like how much you're interested in history and knowing,
right,
the movies or people around that era.
right.
You don't need to be there.
Let's see. Let's see. Julian says, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped past one. Prequel era for show. 90s and the 90s and aughts from Julian. The 80s was totally great decade in history. Big Bang era is the best. Big Bang with 13.7 billion years ago.
That was funny. I like the answer.
Good old London steam era. It's pretty cool. That's pretty far back. Uh, Everyone is saying the 80s, but I disagree. The question where coolest or most energetic time, I'd say is the 80s, but the 80s were very dirty and retro and beautiful at the same it's in the sense that it is use here. The most beautiful time on the earth's existence is now. So enjoy everybody. You may not be here much longer. Okay.
That's good. That's a nice one.
The 2000s, because 1999 was the year I was born, but the rest of my birth year was 2000. Plus, my favorite music was around then. Okay. 2019, because there was no corona, so we had nothing. You should stay home, but you should always stay home and wear your mask. Stay safe. Okay. 2019 was a great year for me. 90s to 2000s. I'm born in 2000 plus, so I don't know what happened in the past. You don't know what happened in the past. How does that? How can you not know what happened in the past?
I
uh,
even know what happened in World War II, but I
yeah.
wasn't there.
Especially since there's empirical evidence, empirical data, are just to back everything up. So it's not like it's that you have to like pretend that you don't know what happened. It's there's
Yeah.
evidence everything up. So if you lived through the 1920s and you're using YouTube, you are one heck of a 100-year-old. That is true. That is true because we're now 100 year 2021 to 1921. Yep, we're there. 18th and 19th century. That's interesting. That's 200 years right there. So uh, the see 1980 to 1990. I don't choose the eras for PlayStation 2 or consoles. 1980 was good. It was damn good. So I was going to say backwards there. 1920s in Romania because Romania has been full united, and I am Romanian. Let's see. I'm going to skip through some of these. These are kind of so depends on how you define beautiful. That's a good point. 2004 to
That's a good point.
2000, yeah, 2004 to 2015. These times felt simplest to me. Uh, yeah, these are. Yeah, I'm not going to read through all these. It'll take a little too
Oh,
long.
that's, you know what? I'm very happy. That's a lot of comments. It's
Yes.
more comments this time than the previous questions for the last show.
Yes. Yeah. So I like the responses here. So here we go. Here's someone with 2077s. I assume there's a game that's out. What's it called? I cannot remember the name of the game now. Cyberpunk. It's called Cyberpunk. I think that's what he's making a reference to. Is the game Cyberpunk? I think that's when it takes place. I've not played the game, but I think that's what it is. So anyway, yeah, I'm not gonna, like I said, I don't want to drag through all of these, but I really appreciate I appreciate all the responses. It would just take too long to go through every single one of those. So but yeah, that we appreciate the responses. 57 or 58 now. Actually, it was 57 a minute ago. So did we get a new one? Let's check here and see what we got here. Go back here. Nope, no, nothing. That's weird. Okay, so we're good. Okay, well, that was great. We both of us, we appreciate your responses on that, and you can keep on voting on that one. And if we see something else, we can always come back to that. So we had a question for this week. You sent it to me. Do you want to go ahead and read it while I go ahead and copy and paste it?
Sure. So to sum it up, it's the topic for today is the pressure of today's society on girls and women. And there is a lot of different topics and articles, and I just was going through some of them and would like to discuss it with you today. But I thought it would be interesting to put down a question as, do you think working women and men, and what I mean by working is both female and male are working at the same time and they're having income, generating income, have the equal responsibilities as at home? Because for many centuries and generations, it was woman's responsibility, the household, baking, taking care of children. Nowadays, we most of the time we have women also working outside and bringing income. But in my experience, I'm witnessing a lot of time women traditional roles still the same while they're also contributing outside and bringing income. In your experience, do you think the role is still equal at household? So, and then questions I put, yes, equal. Now, in 2021, we have also men contributing, and both are the equal responsibility. Is no, I think men are also having more responsibility right now. Or C, no, women have still the same role. So I just wanted to know your perspective. And I don't mean to look at our mothers because or grandmothers, because again, their roles change. There's more women in workforces these days. Are we expecting the same role as women?
Gotcha. I would say, well, when I was growing up, my mother basically stayed at home. So my dad went out and worked, but my dad also was, I hate to say this, but my dad was not really happy with the marriage. So he did a lot of work where he didn't have to come home because he didn't want to be around her because he wasn't really happy with being around her. But he did a lot of, so he was always out working. My mother, before I was, well, not before I was born, when I was a child, when I was very young, before my sister was born, she did work. She had a job as a secretary. She worked for the government. But both my parents were in the Navy. They were in the military when that's how they met. So they were, before they got married, they were in the military. But then after they got out of the military, my dad primarily did most of the work. But like I said, my mother did work as a secretary in the government for a few, I don't know how many years, maybe 4 or 5 years at the most. After that, she was basically at home all the time, taking care of everybody. And it was just I had myself and my sister. My sister is 7 years younger than me. So, um, the since it was at that time that it was not equal for sure. So, and my mother would often say the same thing, that women should be, it should be equal between men and women. My dad would do some work around the home. It was more like he would do the carpentry and stuff, fixing the house, maintenance and things like that. But my mother, she was more like cleaning the house and everything. So my dad did build a nice gazebo in the backyard. So that was one of his high points of my family, my childhood that I remember. But other than that, yeah, it was definitely not equal. And right now I'm living by myself, so I can't really say for myself if it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
count. So.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a really good point. I think you're right. It's all depends on the marriage, the relationship, and the type of a household you've grown up with. So you brought up a really good point. In terms of my experience, I think for me, my dad contributed in differently, and my mom contributed differently. But what I would say is, I don't know, it could be a cultural thing as well, because it's a Middle Eastern culture or Asian culture, the same, that even though, because my mom, she's retired now, but she was a physician, so she would work, and my dad was a businessman. But then my mom would always cook the food because my dad didn't know how to cook it. And I would say the majority of the time, my mom would be responsible for cleaning and other things, and my dad would still help. Don't get me wrong, but I think it, it was always expected of me, or when something going on with the house, it was always expected of the woman to make sure the cleaning is done properly. We have everything, the household responsibility. And I don't know, and I still think it hasn't changed yet.
Right. I
So
agree.
that's my
Before
perspective.
before we go too far, I'm going to go ahead and post the question. I actually hadn't posted it. I just realized that. Is everything look good? Want me to go ahead and post it?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, there we go. Cool. Cool. All right, we can come. We can check that out as we go on. Okay, so yeah, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just want to
Oh
make sure
no,
we
no,
post.
that's all. I think I just like it was my personal experience that not only when my parents is, but I seen a lot of my like my aunts, my uncles, like I see a lot of families. If they get to this date, and where the woman in today's generation, that you need to be able to cook properly. You need to be able to take care of the kids. You need to be able to have a clean house. Not that I'm saying the men are not contributing, but I think it's a traditional roles that has always contributed and I mean continued to be passed down. But one thing that has been forgotten is that the role has changed now. The women are not staying home. The women are now working outside at the same time.
Right.
So, but that's what my observation is. I don't know. That's why I put the question out there. It could be a lot of mixed answers and experiences out there.
So basically, what you're saying is, even though women are working more, the roles are still the same. Is that what you're getting at?
Yes, and it's also there's more pressure. I think, and I think one another day maybe or another topic would be dedicated to what male or men's generally um, having responsibilities and having issues, because having this conversation, that doesn't mean that men are not having difficulties or not having responsibilities, they're not having challenges. I don't want to um, create a topic around that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just today's topic, I just want to talk about the pressure on women, and how as a woman you could experience a lot of social pressures. You need to be a great mom. You need to be great in shape, even though you give birth maybe like 3-4 times. You need to be a great wife, in terms of cooking and things like that. And you still need to take care of yourself. And again, it could not be, realistic in some households, but it's expectations. Because I think a lot of men still comparing their current partner or wife or girlfriend to their mothers. That my mom used to cook this all the time. My mom used to be like that. But then we forget that a lot of women in the previous generations didn't have a lot of pressures like that. Or, for instance, we're not working outside. They were just focusing in home. So I think a lot of things has changed, but a lot of traditional values and responsibility haven't changed, which creates more pressure for women of today's generation.
Right. I agree. Yeah. And also it's, yeah, because if you're looking back to when I was a kid, I don't know if it's the economy or what, because you didn't have to have two parents working all the time. So I'm not sure how to respond to that aspect of it. As far as having two people having to work to maintain the family, I can tell you when my grandparents, on my dad's side and my mother's side as well, but my dad, his parents had 10 children. And this was back in the 1930s and 40s and 50s, and my grandmother stayed at home and my grandfather worked. He owned his own business, and they were able to maintain it. I mean, I don't know how you could do that nowadays with 10 kids, but especially running your own business and everything, but they did it. Now they did scrimp and save a lot, so they would do a lot of things where they, instead of just buying stuff, they would actually make their own things, such as their own laundry detergent. That I do remember. So, and they were always, anytime, instead of buying something new, they would just basically just hold on to it as long as possible, so that it wouldn't, so they wouldn't have to spend more money on things. So, I mean, that's another way that they were able to pay their bills. But yeah, my grandmother, both my grandmothers stayed at home. On my mother's side, they had 5 children, so not as, half the number, but still that's a lot. And they had a very nice house. It was like three-story house, a basement, a middle level, and well, actually, I had four levels if you include the attic. And I was always impressed with how they had such a nice house. But they weren't rich either. They just basically, like my other grandparents, they just basically scrimped and saved a lot. And it's amazing that I don't remember my grandmother's actually ever working. I don't know. I do know my grandmother on my dad's side. She did help her husband, my grandfather is, with the business, because he ran his own newspaper. So she would help him printing up the newspaper. So every once in a while, I do remember that. But that's about the most I know that she was actually doing anything, any kind of work. So, and she did definitely maintain the house. It was a very, very obvious thing. So, but it seemed to carry over into my parents' generation. And for this generation, it's a little, yeah, definitely, I think it's a lot different. But I don't know, because right now I'm lacking in that personal experience. But I mean, how do you feel? I mean, going back, say, with your grandparents and your parents, how would you say that it went for them?
I think, to be fair to our grandparents, and you mentioned 5 kids, for instance, my grandfather had, I think, 10 kids, and that was the
Mhm.
norm back then. You would have 10 kids, sometimes 12, and I can never imagine my grandmother being able to work at the same time. So the amount of children that our previous grandparents, or our generations before us had, was twice is not even more than right now. And that could created more like that was also another responsibility. So I'm not trying to say undermining previous generations, because I think their struggles were also very hard. There was not much technology back then. I mean, I heard stories of my grandparents had to wash everything herself. Imagine having 10 kids, cook for the whole family, clean, where I don't even know if there was vacuum back then. Or so there were definitely struggles back in the day. But at the same time, I think there was a lack of social media and specific image expectations, that you need to look certain this way, and you need to also make this much income.
Mhm.
You need to, have kids at this age. You need to get married at this. So there's all these expectations, but I think those expectations are less expected from men. You can barely see that. Okay, you need to get married at this time, or you need to. I could be wrong.
Right.
But that's what my understanding has been so far, and I think it's open to discussion.
Right. My from my point of view, I think I understand what you're saying about social media, but I think it more or less might be the cost of living. I think the cost of living has just gone up so high that you need to have two parents working in order to have what was had, back 30, 40, or 50 years ago. So it's just the cost is just so high that unfortunately both parents have to work, and that's what creates the situation where you have I'm not basing it on anything but my opinion, so I can't I don't have any sources to back this up, but that's what it seems like to me. It's the if it wasn't for the cost of living, you may still have what you had, say, 30, back in the 50s or the 40s, with basically the mother doing most of the housework and the dad going on and doing the primary, making the money for the household, earning the
Yeah.
living. So, um, and social media. I, you think that how does that how I'm kind of curious, because I don't see how that really ties in to the lifestyle exactly. What do you mean by that?
Well, I was talking to my mom the other day, and she was telling me that in her time, and her youth would have been in 1970s, 1980s, right? And that's when she got married in 1980s. And she was telling me that, of course, they had their own challenges at that time, but didn't have that much of exposure to different looks, different plastic surgery, different fashions. So I think media has also changed. Back then, there was no internet. Back then, there was no Instagram. So you wouldn't know what your, for instance, neighbor is wearing, or you could have seen her in maybe once in a while in a party or wedding, or for instance, right? But I think right now you can just look at the magazine, Vogue magazine, for instance, go to the grocery store, you see all these magazines, or you open your cell phone, you see all these social media apps from TikTok, Instagram, and etc. And you can see all these filters and all these perfections, all these surgeries, reality shows, but none of those existed in 1980s and 70s, or even before our parents. So our parents, and even this is what my mom describes to me, that didn't have the pressure to look certain way. Even if you look and see the movies from 1970s and 80s, you don't see a lot of surgeries back then. You don't see, but now you can see the trend is changing. It's obsession with perfection, with looking good, that it affects the whole population, right? Especially when
Yeah.
women can be hard
Hold
on
on, hold on,
themselves.
hold on. You were breaking up during that last. I was hoping you'd come back. I didn't. That's why I didn't stop you. That you were talking. I'm sorry. You broke up for about the last 20 seconds there, so it's hard to understand what you said. Could you repeat what you just said?
Yeah, of course. I just said that it could be like women that could be really hard on themselves because of those images that society thinks is a beauty standards right now.
Okay.
Versus
So,
back in 1970s and 80s, it didn't exist.
well, I mean, it kind of. I mean, yeah, you're obviously we didn't have like the instant media, but we did have the media. So, I mean, we had TV shows telling people how they should look, and and into the 80s, they started to changed the. I don't know if you know this, but like only certain people with certain looks would be allowed to be on television. So it was a if you didn't fit a certain mold on TV, if you weren't they wouldn't hire you to be on a TV show. Like they didn't want they only want certain people of a certain look to be on TV. So it was to encourage that the preferred look, that so to speak. So
Yes,
that kind
yes.
of fall in that same realm.
Yeah,
So
you're right, but I think it's not to this extent. It was only one TV and maybe magazines. But right now, there's TV, there is Instagram, there's TikTok, there is I don't know, the new reality shows. Um, Back then, we didn't have a reality stars that did a lot of categories. If you look at the movies, you can see the trend of when the plastic surgeries started, right? But then I think that what you're saying, I agree. The obsession with beauty is a human nature. It's always existed, even from thousands of years ago. But I think to the extent that it affects um, expectations, even like you can sit in the couch of your house and having your cell phone and you're just going through that, and every second is just a new look, new filter, new fashion, new article, new expectations. And it's not only about the appearances. Now it comes with how much money do you earn? What kind of job do you have? Back then, the question would be, how many children do you have? What does your husband do? What kind of house you live in? But right now, how much money do you make? What kind of car do you drive?
right.
So, and then on top of that, are you married? So it's kind of like you are keeping up with that pressure of being perfect on everything. been.
No, but I was going to say, if you don't mind, when you say all these statements, are you saying this is primarily for women, or are men included in this as well?
I think there are issues.
Oh,
Not this is only.
hold on. I'm sorry, you're breaking up really badly. We're not hearing anything. Okay, try it now. We didn't when you started speaking, we didn't hear anything. It was just really
No problem.
But
I just said that men, they have their own issues. There's a different challenges for men, but this today I'm talking about the challenge for women.
okay.
That what's the society. Again, is to not undermine that this is only like women having challenges, but today's topic, I'm just talking about what has changed in our generation and what struggle women are facing. And another time we can talk about men in general.
Okay, I just want to make sure, yeah, that the subject was, I wasn't sure how you were covering that. So, okay, we're good, we're cool. So, now you did bring up some of the articles. Did you want to talk about some of these articles that you brought up? Did you want to see this, talk about this? Let me bring it up on the screen here so you can see.
Sure,
this.
I think I would better.
Yeah. No, this was from Psychology Today. Did you want to talk about this? This is the relentless culture pressures for today's girls. 2 things that you can do. 2 things you can do today to protect and empower your daughter. So what was the? Go ahead. I mean, I didn't get a chance to read the whole article, but what was this about?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You for about, but after I asked you what it was about, I didn't hear anything for about.
No, I didn't say anything. I knew I was breaking out, so we're all good.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's cool.
So I think it was just mostly it was talking about what we were talking about earlier, but it was mostly talking about the early age girls when they're growing up. What are the challenges they're facing? That, for instance, the first one's your worth is based on your appearances, right? This is the perception that the girls, when they are growing up at a younger age, have, that they need to embody certain body image. They have to have specific appearances based on the advertisements or ads on TVs, which again, what we're talking about. So as an example, on Instagram, a person who's looking hot and sexy or exposing themselves with more sexiest clothes, they're having a high followers and more likes than than someone who's maybe not as exposed or not as wearing sexy clothes. And again, in the point, your worth is all about gaining attention, getting approval from others, whether through likes, whether through comments, followers, attention on TV within from, if you become famous. Everybody wants to be famous these days. Everyone wants to be on YouTube, or not everybody, but girls at the young age. Or your accomplishment, what we talked about earlier. What did you study? How much you're earning? What firm are you working at? So some of these stuff applies to men. Don't get me wrong. It's not specifically catered towards females, but I want to about more physical appearances, but there's other stuff as well. For instance,
okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you were breaking up a little bit. You were. I think we're good now. Go ahead. I think we're okay. Go ahead.
And in the article goes further on how to prepare your children and girls at their young age to make sure to tell them the way they are, tell them that you love them. So these are really important. And I think being confidence is number one factors right now that a lot of girls are struggling with, and you could stuck with you to the rest of your life if you don't deal with it. Confidence is actually can be very beautiful. This is my opinion.
I get you. And these young girls are being influenced, like you said, like through different social media platforms to think a certain way and to have the right clothing, the right looks, and basically it's the article goes I guess is going on to say that that parents need to like what emphasize that that's not necessarily the best thing that they but I mean if that's not the best thing and the rest of society is focusing on that, wouldn't that leave them out in some way? I mean, I hate to be, that's not. I know it's not fair, but if they're going to ignore all of that, and then later on they don't have a happy relationship with somebody because they were trying to stand out and not ignore all of that when that might have actually helped them in some way get a decent relationship, I mean, maybe a family or something. Um, if they're going to, are they saying they should completely ignore all of that?
I don't think they're saying they should completely ignore all of. I think we should, before everything. I think because with external, uh, the more the more you can be, um, you can forget that inner confidence because nothing is good enough for you. Because there's always going to be sure than you. There's always going to be someone taller than you. So you're going to go to this treadmill of, am I good enough? Am I good enough? Look at the next magazine. But if you are totally okay with who you are, uh, it doesn't matter um, what society brings at you. What is the next trend? What is the next fashion? You are okay with who you are, because the more important thing is your happiness inside, your confidence inside. You don't want to change yourself every time something happens in the fashion industry. I mean, you could, of course, change your clothes, but do you want to change your feature all the time? I don't know. Do you? What do you think?
Me? As what do are you talking about me personally, or what I think about when it comes to young women and girls?
When it comes to young girls, do you think they should change themselves every time there is a certain expectations, or should they just go in? I mean, I'm just asking, and there's no right and wrong answer to it. Or should
Well,
they just go with the society's norm of what is good for them?
um, well, if they try to be themselves and if being themselves as being really reclusive and not being and being antisocial, that might damage them in the long run. So it might be a good idea to accept some of those things to help them become more sociable in certain ways. I mean, if they remain themselves and they're not like it alienates them from everybody else, that's not a good thing. If
Mm-hmm.
if I mean, if it's a common thing for young girls to dress and look a certain way, and a young woman goes, "Well, I don't want to look that way," and then all of the other girls shun her and act like they don't want to be around her, then what's going to happen? She'll become isolated and be alone. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think I understand the idea that confidence is good, but there also has to be a balance of some sort, don't you think? I mean,
Yeah.
you can't just say, I'm going to be myself, and then hope that everyone likes you, because that's not necessarily going to be the case depending on where you are, what culture, where it'd be different in different locations around the world as well. So
Mm-hmm.
um so it's a very delicate balance. You just have to try it out and play it by ear, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what goes to the original discussion that I was having, that those pressures that nowadays, because of the technology, the news goes really fast. The trend changes every month. Everybody wants to have a new phone. Everybody wants to have a new car. Versus, I think before, yes, there was those material things existed, but you wouldn't get those images as fast as you wouldn't have the Instagram page in front of you all the time and say, "Oh, this person is going this where, this where, this where." Everything was quieter, or everything was not so exposed. So um, I think it's just that, yes, there are pressures for sure. How to deal with those pressures is to, again, this is what I think, is to just teach the young girls the confidence, not in a way to shut themselves out and just not going with the trend and not being up to date, but just protecting themselves and say sometimes it's okay to, for instance, I don't know, to just don't have that plastic surgery, to don't have drive that car because you have other qualities. And if someone is confident, I'm pretty sure they are able to have a social interaction, being social, wearing the clothes they have, wearing it in a way that everybody can look at them in the way that, oh, she's confident. But again, as you're saying, I agree with you because there has to be some balances as well. But the most important thing, just teaching the confidence to the children, because I think it's lacking in a lot of younger generation.
Right. Right. The and I agree the confidence part is probably, especially since men in general, boys and men tend to be more aggressive. Now, I was not really, I didn't show a lot of confidence when I was growing up, and that's probably why I am where I am today. I wish I had shown more confidence in a lot of things. As I've gotten older, I've shown more of it. So it goes. Men have to go through that as well, but probably not nowhere near as much as women do. I think women tend to be more on the timid side. Not all of them, of course. I've seen some very aggressive women that are just really, not very nice people. But generally speaking, yeah, the women have to, probably have to work more with their confidence aspect than men would. So, and I as far as the I mean, as far as trying to, I mean, there's not. Uh, I guess I'm just repeating myself at this point, but I mean, it's just basically them, they have to figure out what's good for them in the society and decide whether or not something that's trendy or fashionable is something that they want to try, but not let themselves be overtaken by it, I guess is the best way to put it. What do you think?
Mhm. Yeah, I like that because right, you can follow the trend and be up to date with society because you need to survive and help yourself, but at the same time find that balance.
Right. And let me see. One second, I'm bring something up here too. We had another article that you wanted to discuss as well. Is that right? From the Huffington Post. Did you want to discuss that one?
Yeah, it's
Bring it up right here.
so yes.
No, one thing I will say about the Huffington Post, they are kind of biased in a lot of ways. So take what they say, with, be careful about what you're reading there sometimes, because there's going to be some sort of a bias in there, and that could influence what you're saying, or thinking. So, yeah, they are more biased in one way than another, and that could be influencing in a way that maybe you're not really thinking about. They may be trying to take things a little too extreme. I'm not trying to say they're bad at all, but they are a little biased when they come to their
Yeah.
politics and things like that.
Oh,
So,
that's good point. Yeah, thanks for bringing that out. I think the reason that I chose this article is because it was very close to home. I actually experienced that with some of my colleagues and where I was working. I actually work in the financial industry for the past 11 years. And I've seen it firsthand. And the articles actually said, the topic of articles, all the ways women are still pressured to put family before career. And what I mean by that is, at the end of the day, I've seen many women in the management position that they had to choose their family because they got pregnant and they had children at home. And they're the one they had to give up their career to stay home for a few years to take care of their children. Or the time they children growing up, it was just kind of too late, and I had to upgrade themselves. And I see barely men to, give up that time to spend time with their children, because even it's kind of like sound weird if you think that you never seen a man say, "Oh, my wife is pregnant and my children are very. I think I'm just gonna stay being a role for men." But women are expected to do it, and I've seen a woman in the management role that they have the potential to go even more than that. But because of their role as a mom, to choose. these are the things that happens every day. However, I have seen so many successful women that they still have their family and are still in the management role and they're entrepreneur. But I think there is a bit of both.
Okay.
So I don't know. I think it's still women, they put into that situation sometimes to choose.
So basically, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter what you basically say. Even if a woman is very successful in her career and gets up to a high management position or even an entrepreneurial position, she's still expected to maintain those same roles, is what you're saying, right? Is that what you're getting at?
Not the same, not as much as expected as women.
Hold on. You're breaking up. You really broke up. I didn't hear any of that. It was really bad.
I think men is not expected to do the same as much as women. You don't see men ask to stay home because they have children. I mean, yeah, maybe there are examples and instances, but it's always women that have to give up the career if there are some situations at home that they're not able. I mean, nowadays there are daycares, there are resources. If you're successful, you can afford the daycare and you can afford to do that. But there are some instances that still a child needs a mom. And I'm not saying that women shouldn't do that. Again, my argument or my discussion is not about that. I'm just stating the facts and what's going on in society. Because at the end of the day, I think woman role as a mom, it's always been really important, but it has not. But it could get intertwined, or it could get, the right word, conflicted with being successful. It could, but not necessarily.
Right. I can tell you that I don't know all the details, but my sister had a career, and when she got pregnant with her first son, that she decided to stay at home and be a stay-at-home mom and take care of the kids. So then she has two sons now, and they're about 3 years apart in age. I think they're like 9 and 12, I believe. So, but ever since the first one was born, she's been staying at home, taking care of everybody. She has not had a job. Her husband is the one that basically takes care of the whole family. So she gave up on her career to do that, but she still does work here and there doing minor things. Oh, I don't know exactly. Well, I take that back. She is working at home right now, so I don't know. I'm probably making mistakes when I'm saying this. I know she does have a job, but it's a job where she works out of the home. So I don't know exactly what that is, but I do believe that she at first, when her sons were born, she decided to not go into an office anymore. She was going to stay at home and dedicate herself to raising the kids. So, which surprised me because I didn't think she would do that. I thought she would stay with the workplace, and I think it's going in the direction you're talking about. Basically, she felt. Well, I don't think she was pressured though into doing that. I think it was just an agreement that her and her husband made that she would do that. So,
yeah, I don't think it's a pressure. I think it's just a personal responsibility of woman. As a woman, as a mom, the mother is. You are the nurturer. You are the caregiver. Not that the fathers are not in a different way, but how is that going to work with career? That's what I mean, I've seen a lot of examples of successful mothers and entrepreneur women, but there are few. There's more example of women that they have to go home and stay home than those that they made a way to work it out.
Right. And now, what about the women that do want to stay home? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That don't feel pressure to do so.
Yeah, I think it's those are different stories. I think what is very important is what the discussion is about today episode was today's modern world obviously is different for women. Women are not only wives anymore, they're not only mothers anymore, even though they're all those roles, but they are into the workplace. They're almost equal. They're the contributors, one of the main contributors of today's. There's so many entrepreneurs, there's so many business owners. But there are some struggles with that come the family, the pregnancy, taking care of the children, being a single mom. So all those are something to discuss and talk about, I think.
I got you. Okay. The would you like to? I mean, I right now well, I don't know if you looked at it, but I brought up our question from earlier.
Perfect.
Would you like to bring that up? Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great.
I found the answer is kind of interesting here. Here we go, right here. Right now we're at that they're both equal at 88%. That's pretty high. So only one comment so far from Sandeep says, my opinion is they should be treated equal everywhere, but not only in the house. Okay, that's a pretty fair statement. That pretty much goes along with the first response. How do you feel about that 88%? It says 9% no, women work more at home, and only 3% with men work more at home.
That's exactly right. I mean, I don't want to sound, but that's my experience.
Right.
I don't say that's what I come from.
Okay. Hold on. You're breaking up really badly again. You said that was your experience, and all of a sudden it really jarbled up. So try it again.
My experience, that's right. That would put the questions out there, understanding of what is like other people's experience.
Right. Now, this is strictly an opinion, so this is not based on fact. This is what people think it should be. So it seems like people are pretty fair in this situation. So
yes, exactly.
and I think most people pretty much are. I mean, if you had conducted this survey probably back in the 1950s, but 70 years ago, what that is, you would have seen a much different result. All right, So, but that's that's to be expected. But and as far as the what people's opinion are versus reality, that's the big question, I guess. What is it really like versus what people think it should be like? So, I mean, I assume that's what you're leading up to, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. One of your audience made it right. It has to be equal outside as well. If we want to be equal everywhere, then we need to be equal. But we need to understand at the same time that men and women are not the same. We can never be equal completely because men cannot get pregnant for 9 months. So I just want to put it out there too. But I don't mean to say that, oh, like we need to be like completely everything. Like obviously, like there's different roles and we genetically are different, right? Like we bond with the child for 9 months, and obviously that is different. And but I think it needs to be balanced. And I'm very interested to know what is going on right now. I think we're going to the right direction as generation pass.
Right. But as time goes on, things could always change and revert back. I mean, it's happened in the past. I mean,
yes.
So I mean, moving in a certain direction, it might seem we're going in a positive direction, but then maybe 20 years from now, things could be going way back in another direction that we're completely different. That we have no control. We have control over that. So I mean, yeah, I agree. Right now, everything is working in what we're talking about is moving in a more positive direction for sure. And I think it was definitely going in that direction back in the 70s and 80s for sure. But I think more so it is today. And I don't think that I don't think there's a lot of I agree there's still the pressure aspect for some things, but I mean it is getting to a point where people are considering to be more equal. I mean it's not even a question anymore. It's not like if you had asked this question say in the 60s or the 70s, they might have gotten an answer more of a abrupt of course women need to do certain things, but now I don't think you would get that kind of response. So
yeah, I think men also have different pressures. But that would be for another, because there's a different pressures for men as well. And I think each gender has their own struggles and challenges.
Right. So,
but that's a good response, a good engagement. I mean, I'm very surprised.
Yeah. This question, I would probably be surprised if we get many. It probably won't be as high as our last question. I think this one will probably, it'll get some responses, but it probably won't get as many as the last one. So, but this is kind of average. We're usually by the end of the show we get like about 100 votes. So we're about close to 80. I'll refresh it one more time just for the heck of it. See what we get.
I'm very surprised with our last question. It was a real response. And people are into different decades.
I'm sorry. You said that whole thing broke up. You'll have to repeat.
I think people are very into histories. Your audience are more into histories and decades. That's why we got more response.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What's the more beautiful decade? Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's, and also I mean, I think more people are going to have an opinion on that anyway. In general, they're going to say, well, I think this is better. I think that's better. Versus this is more of a question that's going to be more selective. Not as many people are going to really have an opinion on this kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So
it's also to choose questions. I think we just kind of testing because we want to know what you know, the audience like more, what is their interest are. It's very helpful. I think the questions for sure.
Right. Okay. Well, did you want to wrap everything up?
I think it's like what, just generally speaking, is that as you said, I'm just kind of like coaching as well, that every generation has its own scope with time and every family. It all depends on the family.
Hold on. Yeah, that was really, you broke up really, really bad on that one. You said, as I said, or as you said, and then it was just completely garbled. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I said like every family, generation, different situation. Can you hear me now?
Okay, now I can hear you. I just couldn't for about a minute, for about 10 seconds though. It was the same thing. I just couldn't hear you. It was just, it's getting really bad. So you can try one more time. Let's try it again.
Oh my God. I'll just make it really quick. I think everybody in different generation and decades have different challenges. And today's talk, we want to know, what is today's society's pressure? What is today's society challenge for women? And again, I think it's kind of, it depends, right? But we're moving to the right direction.
Okay. That's how we understood. Yeah, that I agree with. Okay. That's the best way to summarize the whole thing. I agree with you 100% on that one. So, alrighty. Well, I think we should go ahead and wrap everything up, especially since we got a little bit of, your audio is just cutting in and out a little too much at this point. So I think if we continue on, it's going to create a little bit of an issue with us trying to.
Okay.
So, but okay, yeah. Thanks everybody, and go ahead. If you would, take part in the poll. We're up to 95 votes right now, and answer. If you want to answer the question, or add to the question. I mean, go ahead and leave a comment, and also leave a comment on this video as well. So, thanks everybody.
Thank you guys. Bye.